Hello, everyone. Welcome. I am Briar Harvey. This is the Neurodiversity Media Network, and we are here today for another episode of Personal Evolution with the fabulous. Nope, still not pointing. I'm never going to get it right. Never going to get it right. I just need to turn off the mirror and just let it be. It's fine. Biba. The fabulous Biba Atta. Okay, so in this season, we're talking about imposter syndrome. And we've talked about how it shows up, some strategies for dealing with it. Last time we talked about what people get wrong about it.
Mhm.
And today, what we're going to unpack is like the language of it, the thoughts and the feelings. What I want you to be able to do when we're done today is have a conversation with your imposter syndrome in whatever way that takes shape for you, whether that's journaling, whether it's just talking it out on a nature walk, whatever it is. I want you to be able to have a conversation with this part of you. So let's talk first. I want a definition again. When you say imposter syndrome, what are we meaning here?
What we're meaning by imposter syndrome is that it is a common occurrence where there is self doubt, where there is a sense of unworthiness about your ability, about your accolades. When you are at a certain level or you're achieving a certain level. And it's also wrapped in this ideal or worry that someone else is going to find out. There's a big secret that really you don't know what you're doing, or you don't deserve this thing, or you don't have the capability or whatever, and other people are going to find out. So that's the basis of my little funny definition.
Okay. So let's talk about the feeling of it because you said other people are going to find out. And I really want to start there, right?
Mhm.
That so much of this is about not how I feel, but about how I'm being perceived. And
Mhm.
as an autistic person, I do not like to be perceived. So,
Mhm. Mhm.
how do we define those feelings of being seen?
Ooh. How I would define the feelings of being seen when we're talking about imposter syndrome is, again, it's about the someone's going to find out. So there's this element of something about you needs to be hidden. There is a fear that if it is not hidden and if somebody finds out, then something is going to happen. What is the thing that's going to happen? You're going to get fired. Someone is going to judge you. Someone's going to perhaps reject you. Someone is going to perhaps decide to let you go or break up with you if it's a relationship sort of situation. But there is a fear that if you're found out, then something is going to happen. There's also this element of shame that is attached to imposter syndrome for so many of us, that it's not, it's a difference between shame and guilt. And if you want to get into like actual feelings, Brene Brown's Atlas, I think it's oh, I can't remember the name of it, but I think it's
I
like
think it's Atlas of the Heart.
Atlas of the Heart. Phenomenal book and how to delve into the feelings. And I've heard Iana Van Zant say this too, that guilt is about you doing something wrong. Shame is about you being wrong, like your being is wrong. And so with shame as it relates to imposter syndrome, that something about you was wrong. And so your impetus is to hide that from other people, and you're doing that because you don't want it to be exposed. And so, just the whole cocktail of imposter syndrome, we have feelings of needing to hide, elements of shame, and then the biggest part of the cocktail is the fear of being found out. And if you go into the fear of being found out. Fear of being found out because you really don't know something, or you're really unworthy and undeserving, or all the other things. So there is just it's a full cocktail of this heavy feeling that something is wrong. You need to hide something, and if it's exposed, then hell will break loose.
And I think it's important for us to acknowledge, especially here on this network, the way that shame plays into rejection sensitivity dysphoria, right? That
Mhm.
there is, I read someone talk, RSD is not, first of all, it is not in the DSM. It's not even standard amongst neurotypical practitioners of mental health. It's something we talk about as neurodivergent people because the shame of having been rejected is basically imprinted on our souls because it has happened so often.
Mm.
So, what's the difference between feeling like I'm going to get found out and actually being found out for masking who I was, right?
What's the difference between being found out and being found out for masking who I was? That's the question.
Yeah, what's the difference between so imposter syndrome states that or the fundamental belief, not ours, but a big part of the belief is that it is false, right?
Mm.
That it's a syndrome because it's us creating our worst nightmares.
Mm.
Whereas we here know that sometimes we're right about that shit. We're not empathic. We're just students of rejection because it happens
Mm.
to us a lot.
Mhm.
So, how do I tell the difference between feeling like I'm going to be rejected and knowing that I've read certain signals in a certain way?
Ooh, damn.
Sorry, I know.
And it's Monday. How dare you?
I know.
Oh my goodness. How do you tell the difference? I feel like that's a hard one. That's a hard one to tell the difference, because regardless of anything, rejection is hard for everyone. Rejection is hard for us all, even people who are in professions where rejection is it's lunch, it's breakfast, lunch, and dinner, midnight snacks, and all of the things. It's hard. So to be able to tell the difference, I don't I don't know that there is really a way to say how to tell the difference, because the feeling of rejection and the fear of rejection is, especially when rejection happens, it's like it's real. And so what I can say about it is that instead of trying to figure out the difference between the feelings of rejected and actually being rejected, is to recognize that rejection happens and then access, find, create tools to work through your feelings of rejection. So, what happens to you when you get rejected? Notice your breathing, notice what you feel in your body, notice if you're the kind of person that's telling yourself certain stories about what this means. Like, this person rejected me because I'm horrible. Did they say that you're horrible, or they just said that they weren't really with you for right now? Like you have to start asking some really important questions, and I mean really get into it, to get down to like what is actually true, and what are the things that you're assuming, what are the stories that you're telling that are making you feel a particular way. Because when you get down to um the stories that happen where we are rejected, sometimes if you examine it enough, you recognize that there are times when it's like, yes, they've said something. It was very clear they're rejecting you, and they're rejecting you because they don't like you. They're rejecting you because you're fat. They're rejecting you because this, that, and the other thing. That sometimes that is really true. But there are situations where they're rejecting you and it has nothing to do with you. They're rejecting you because it's a bad time of day, not because of you.
Arguably, I would say most of the time when they are rejecting you, it has nothing to do with you. And I think this is the right answer.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to rejection, when it comes to feeling like an imposter, it's feelings over facts here, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Feelings over facts here. Absolutely. And that is why the internal dialogue is so important. The questions, the even if you're like, why am I talking to myself like I'm a 2 year old? Because sometimes we start making up stories. We hear things that weren't said. We see facial expressions that have to absolutely mean this one possible thing when that is not what it meant. Instead of specifically asking and as opposed to assuming, so that you can get actual fact about what is happening and then allowing that to be, because sometimes we're just so sold on the story because of our own beliefs about ourselves, about the world around us, that even if the person says it's not about you, I'm not rejecting you, it's just X, Y, and Z, we're still like, we don't believe you. Of course it's about us. You're just trying to be nice. And so you really do have to examine all of this stuff, all of this stuff. So many questions.
And I really want to unpack what you just said there.
Okay.
It's a story. Imposter syndrome is the story that we tell ourselves. When we're telling ourselves a story, what is it that we need to do to determine whether or not that is true or false?
First of all, you got to ask the question, is this really real? Is it really real? I have this really good friend, and we have these conversations about things, or I'll tell her something that's happened, and I'll tell her about how I'm feeling a certain kind of way about X, Y, and Z. And she'll be like, I'm hearing a little story, and I'm just like, oh, here we go. She's got the hard hat out with light on the front and the pickaxe, and she's getting ready to start digging down to the bottom of like what's actually true. Because sometimes, maybe not sometimes, maybe all the time, what I said is in my mind, it's like I'm right. I'm right. Of course, the story's real, and I want to sit in these feelings for whatever the reason. I'm comfortable with them. It is my normal get down. It's not outside of my comfort zone. There's some new information that would be introduced if I'm actually going to get to the root of the story. So I want to stay here. So the minute that I'm challenged, I'm not happy. It's never good when she's like, are you sure that's not a story? But she's doing what I've come to begin to do. So, because I normally would never at one point ask myself, is this story true? I'm just going to rock with it like it's the truest thing I've ever seen, heard in history. But when she challenges me, it makes me have to go a bit deeper. So I'm like, oh shit, I am telling myself stories. This was a, it was so believable. This was a story.
Because it's
And now
comfortable.
it's
And
comfortable.
and I think that's key. When we
Yeah.
tell ourselves stories that are patently untrue, we can hang on to them much longer because it's comfortable. It's
Yeah.
like cozy jammies,
It they're the best.
right?
Cozy babies are the best. And if you realize that you're telling yourself stories, then you got to ask yourself, why is that? And then that's when the tunnels start to come into play. And you're down there and you're like, oh my God, the conspiracy theories with the tinfoil hat. You mean to tell me that shit was true? Oh my God. Who knew? But you it's easier to tell yourself these stories. Because also, if you tell yourself these stories, then is there something that it, what's my thing? Is there an indication to the way that you are? Is there something, some kind of personal responsibility that you'll have to take for feeling a kind of way or taking a particular action or something that has happened that really isn't on all these other folks, but on you? So the stories that you tell yourself keep you in this bubble of, I don't have to take responsibility for certain things. I don't have to do anything that's different. This is what I know.
I don't have to change.
I don't have to change. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've identified that it's a story. Well, now what?
Mm. Oh man, this is where adventure starts. When you identify that it's the story, you get to discover what it's really about. And that's when you learn about the games sometimes that we play, the games that others play. We start to explore our responses. We get in touch more with our own emotions. We go back into parts of our own history to explore where some of these things came from. Why am I so married to my unworthiness? Where is that in my history? Why am I attracting people or situations, or not, maybe not even attracting sometimes, but being like connecting or magnetized to stuff that's not for my greatest good or in this particular vein, when I see that this is a red flag walking? Why am I like, this is where I want to go? What's that about? What kind of experience have I had that said that this is what you know, so this is where you need to be? There's so much beyond the story that you can learn about yourself, can learn about your responses, your triggers, your reactions, that really does ultimately answer questions that you've probably had about who you are and your life since early on. And from there, it allows you to have more control over yourself. You can better regulate yourself. You can better manage yourself because you understand yourself better. Since you've taken the cover off of the manhole, and now you're down there and you see how things are operating. It changes the game.
But it's not a one and done kind of process.
Oh, do you? The tunnels are like, what's the name of those tunnels in France with the skeletons in there? It was on Lupin. I can't remember the name of like they're
The catacombs.
It's like the catacombs down there. You could be down there living. You could be down there living. It is not a one and done situation. You don't go down a ladder and you're like, oh, peek to the right, hear all the answers. You come back up and then life is perfect. It's not that. It will never be like that. You go down, you explore, you think you have an answer, you come back up, you test out this new theory. Sometimes the theory is correct, sometimes it's working well, and then you hit a roadblock, and now there's something new here to discover. You got to go back down there and find out, well, what is this new thing? What is this really about? And that is life. You'll be going down to that tunnel forever.
Okay. So part of this process of unearthing ourselves,
Yes.
we're just going to be
I
here
love
the
it.
rest of the after. It's fine. It's fine. Is that it's a journey. So,
Mhm.
how am I marking my progress? How do
Mm.
I know if I've changed?
Ooh, that actually is a beautiful question. And the reason why I think that it's beautiful is because we're also focused on getting to the end, and the end is the end. Just like, we don't need to speed it up. We don't need to speed up the end. How you notice that you've changed is that as you are on your journey, as you are experiencing things, cyclical things, things that are coming back, people that are coming back, circumstances that are coming back, You recognize, because again, you've done some digging, you've done some self exploration and discovery, that there was a point in your life where you would have gotten to this point, you would have had this experience, you would have seen this person again, and you would have committed a 187. You would have committed a homicide. But the fact that you can literally sit across the table, be cordial, laugh about some things, go home and not even think about it is evidence that a change has taken place. Sometimes it's not so visceral. Sometimes it is that, hmm, let me just ask, let me just check in with myself. How am I feeling right now? Actually, I feel okay. I feel okay. Oh, that's interesting, because there are times I can go back to where this would not have been okay. I would not have felt okay. I would not have been, I would have reacted. Sometimes even recognizing that something happened and your first response is to just take a pause and inhale and exhale, when before you would have been taking chairs and it would have been a brawl fight. You know, it's just checking in to see. And then that is when you'll notice that there are changes. So again, subtle or very visual and visceral changes.
And when we are talking about shame,
Mm-hmm.
it's not difficult to notice that you're feeling that
Mm-hmm.
again,
Mm-hmm.
but it is difficult to reprogram it. So, how do we identify the ways in which we need to continue to have this conversation with ourselves, right? We've identified that it's a story. We're starting to understand our trigger points.
Mm-hmm.
And also, when it happens, it's fast,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's
Mm-hmm.
almost immediate. It's the difference between feeling my first feeling and choosing my second feeling,
Ooh,
right?
yes.
How do we do that when it's in the clutch?
Mm-hmm. When it's in the clutch, sometimes it's gonna, when it's in the clutch, it could be very hard to access anything other than, this is where I'm at, and where, what are we doing from here? And that usually also, like, once you get out of that situation, it's usually where you find that you've changed. So your response to being in the clutch is going to look different than what it did before. So as long as you are, you're continuing to explore yourself, but recognizing that triggers are a part of life, recognizing that triggers are not necessarily a bad thing, they can be an indicator for somewhere you need to explore, a place that sometimes can be hard to find if we're looking for, what do I need to fix about me? What is that thing that is keeping me from X, Y, and Z? And you're looking, and there's a lot in here. It's a lot going on up in here. And the meat suit that we wear, it's so much. A trigger is a place that's saying, look here, explore here, go here. This is the red blinking dot on the map. And while when you're triggered, or reaction to a trigger could be a detonation, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's what it is. It doesn't have to be rage or anger filled. It could be sad, depressing. It could be a number of things. But in that moment, when you're in it and you are feeling really emotional in some way about what's going on, the best thing to do is just remember to breathe, remember your head, and your feelings are not going to take you over. As a matter of fact, usually when we allow ourselves to feel the feeling in a moment, it is just a moment. And you're like, oh, like, have you ever had a situation where you cried about something and you've been fighting the tears, you've been fighting crying, you don't want people to see that you're sad, you don't want to let people see you sweat, you don't want to give anybody the impression that you're weak, or even when you're by yourself, you're fighting tears, like, I don't want to feel this way, I want to do everything but feel. but then the tears flow. And then you just, and you're feeling in that moment like that, like the, for me, it like sits right on my chest. And then I feel like my body like racked and, you're just crying. And it's usually not even like 30 seconds. And then even if I wanted to make myself continue crying, whatever it was that got it to the point where my eyes are now leaking is gone. I can't push anything else to make tears come from my eyes or to feel like I want to cry. It's like, oh, I was forced for the tears to come out. Something happened where something was released. It is no longer there. Huh. So in the clutch, the best thing you can do really is to prepare for that the clutch is going to happen. Because once you're in the clutch, that's where the rubber meets the road. That's where you see your progress. That's where you see your work. That's where you're like, okay, I got these tools. I promised myself I was going to use these. This is the moment to do that. This is the moment.
Yeah, it just doesn't ever work retroactively. You can't bring tools to the dance, so to speak, if you haven't spent the time gathering them up and putting them in the bag.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you'll know how well you did once you're out of the clutch. Because when you're
Mm.
in it, you can't evaluate how you're doing while you're in it. You're triggered. You're not going to be thinking straight. You're going to be response, react. You're going to be there. And then once you get out of that clutch, you're like, oh, okay, how do we do? Oh, I was breathing. It worked. I didn't kill somebody at this table when they said that about my mom or whatever happened, right? Or I didn't run off into the sunset. I didn't disappear and to never be seen or heard from again. Like I didn't do the things that I would do. So I've got my little checklist. How do we do during the clutch? We did well. We didn't do well. We could use improvement. We need new tools or, more practice or got to unpack. Okay, kind of messed the place up. Got to clean it up. Whatever happens. But in the clutch is not the time to be evaluating how are we going to deal with this. Like,
No,
no, not the time,
it's
because you're
too
not
late.
rational. Yeah,
Right.
you're gone at that point. There are certain things that when you self explore, there are certain things you're like, okay, I know what the trigger is. I know what happens when I start to get to the point where I'm about to be in the clutch. So you're not quite in the clutch yet. You're getting there, and then that really is where the work is. That's before you even get to the clutch. But once you're in it, doo when you come out, that's when you're more rational, when you can see straight. But the putting things in place to happen, whether you're exiting stage left, where you're saying, hey, I need a moment, where you're saying, I really don't, this is starting, I'm feeling some kind of way. I would really, let's just put a pin in this conversation and do it another time. Like all of the things before you haul off and be in the clutch, like that happens before you get there.
So you mentioned something else that I think is really valuable
Mm-hmm.
that's going to shock people when I say reviewing the process, going through the postmortem is really valuable. I say that probably once a week because here too, like everywhere else, you can't know how you're going to do unless you've reviewed how you did.
Yes. Yeah. This it's gonna have to it's gonna hit the fan. It's a part of life. It's a part of the assignment. It was the job description when you said yes to the job. You're gonna have emotional outbursts. You're gonna have big feelings. You're gonna have some kind of traumas. You're gonna have some moments that are not your. You're gonna make mistakes. We're human beings. We're here to feel and experience the full gamut of being a human being. I say this all the time. There is nothing in the experience that you are meant to skip. I don't give a damn if you don't like it. I don't give a damn if it doesn't feel good. If it's a part of the sadness, the lower register of emotions, all of that is part of the human experience and we're meant to experience it. Period. It's not here to feel good. I think that's where we all get the game messed up. We're not here to feel good. If we wanted to feel good, I don't know if we would have agreed to come. Like this just ain't the place. This ain't it. You can't decide to come back as a human being living in the United States of America. This was the last place to feel
At
good.
this time,
Are you
no.
crazy? You should have came back as a damn mushroom. Like, don't they seem like they're just out in the forest getting moisture and just growing and they're talking to each other? There's so many fruits and vegetables and animals that are
House
happy.
cats.
I mean, house cats. Can we even? I would love to come back as a cat to be just.
My next life, 100% house
Can
cat.
we just
Because,
coddle me
wow.
and yeah? I mean, my God, give me a cute name, pet me when I want to be pet, leave me alone when I don't want to be bothered. You know what I mean? Just feed me all the good stuff, love on me, and then leave me alone. Like there's so many other things we could have chose. This ain't the place to feel good. This is the place to feel it all.
And the experience of feeling these things as a part of the process means that it's easier to move through it and let go of. Yes?
Oh my God, absolutely. Absolutely. That's a tee up to a great point. It does. It becomes easier. It's like you now have proof that just by allowing yourself to sit in the sadness, you'll survive. It's okay. Self-soothe. You come out of it and you're like, "Oh, I thought this was going to take over my life. I thought this was going to wreck my entire week. I thought by sitting in this, it means that I'm not going to be able to do my job." When it was just 5 minutes, if you had a timer on and you allowed yourself to feel your feelings and you stopped the timer once you were done, it was a couple of seconds, it was a minute, it was 5 minutes. You take a breather and you're like, wow. When you fully allow yourself to feel the feeling, that's different. Not that let me just put on the brave face and just recognize, okay, I'm sad. Okay, let me just put this back here and let me go about doing my day. That's not feeling the feeling. When you fully allow yourself to be in it, to feel it, to sit in it, it doesn't take long at all. Feel it and be able to move beyond. But we don't, it is not even just, it's not, I'm not even blaming us for that. I'm not blaming us for that. We've been conditioned to believe that feelings are just, oh my God, you're emotional. You shouldn't be emotional. Like you shouldn't be doing that. You should be logical. It's so rooted in so many things. So rooted in many things. And ultimately, the people who are in control, who are in power, by us having feelings, it means that we are not taking moments for ourselves. We know more about ourselves. We are less controllable, which is what folks want. Systems want us to be controlled. And it's better when we're cyborgs. You can, you can just program us, put the code in there, and then we go into the wherever, and we're the cog in the wheel doing the thing until we come home and retire and die off. Like that's the system. We're all playing. Thank you for playing. But in the end of the day, you wake up one morning and you realize like, well, what happened? Where am I? I'm 87 now, and what kind of experiences have I really am I proud of they're like the joys of my life? What are the things that I can remember about certain times? Like your feelings make it colorful. Your feelings make it vibrant. It makes it real. You're present when you're feeling. That all creates memories. Like so by not allowing yourself to feel, like you're setting yourself up to be controlled by others. We won't be, because again, this is the system. This is where we at. We came here, part of the assignment. There is no red pill. We've all taken the blue pill because that is all that exists for us. So we got to play the game. But that doesn't mean that we can't have beautiful experiences. It doesn't mean that we can't have happiness and joy and all the rest of these other things. Doesn't mean any of that stuff. It's all a part of the experience that all of us are deserving and worthy of. But that doesn't mean it's not without work. It doesn't mean it's not without hardship, doesn't mean it's not without challenge and difficulty, but it doesn't have to be all the time. Doesn't have to be all this time.
And I think that gets us to like our Super Saiyan or Final Evolution or whatever cartoon manga you would like to apply here as, the ultimate stage of growth. That once you've moved through these things, once you've collected your tools, your next assignment is to go out and do this for other people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Your next assignment is to go out and do this for other people. And the best way that you can do it for other people is by modeling what it looks like.
Yes.
The best way. The best way. And people are watching you. People are watching you that love you. People are watching you that don't like you at all. People are watching you. They're learning from you. They're seeing you grow. They're seeing things about you that you may not see about yourself. They're recognizing things within themselves simply by your presence. So, you modeling these changes is an inspiration. It can be aspirational for other people. And so that's why that's so important. Like, you do it out loud. And that's the problem with shame. You're not doing anything out loud. You're hiding,
Yes.
and you're so needed. It's so needed for you to be seen. You're meant to show people and be real with people, be authentic and tell them about what's going on, what you're feeling, what you're thinking, because that is how we all learn and grow together. That's how community, that's a part of being a part of a community. And by hiding yourself, you're you are keeping certain things from people that really do need you, that may not even recognize that they do. So that's how you do it. You model it for other people.
Right, because it's not my responsibility to heal other people if they are unwilling to be healed, but it is my responsibility to model what those tools are.
Yes. Yeah, share your stories. Share your stories. I was in the shower. I was thinking about this thing that I told you about, how the shower is a great place for me to think. Oh, I love thinking in the showers. I get all my best ideas. Then you realize that 17 other people have said the same thing. So you're not crazy. You're not whatever it is that you're telling yourself, because this is what you like to do. You share your stories, share all of them. You're not by yourself, and that means that other people are not alone too. And that in and of itself is helpful for them to recognize, like, oh, there is a chance for me not to feel this way. There's a chance for me not to have this kind of, to get through this particular challenge when I didn't see a way out. Share your
I
stories.
also want to particularly call out that does not mean you need to become a content creator and do
Oh,
it
no.
publicly. You can share your story verbally with your next door neighbor if you would like.
Yes.
Just share your stories.
Share your story. Yeah. You don't have to become an Instagram influencer. Not necessary.
Okay, so we've come a long way on
We
this
have.
journey, Biba.
We have.
We went underground, we found some tools, put them in a bag. Now we're coming back up out of our hidey hole and saying, hey, look, I have
I
tools.
have tools.
I have tools. Is there anything else you want to add to this process?
Oh, have fun. I
Mm,
know that, and I know sometimes it's my delivery about things. Like, I can be very serious when it comes to like inner work, because it doesn't feel fun. What it is I want people to be informed. I just see way too much out here that just makes it seem like something's going to happen in a blink of an eye. I see way too much out here that where people are making it sound like it's easy. I see way too much out here where people make it sound like it's going to be, quick, easy. It's going to be fun. There's going to be it's not going to feel bad. And so then when people are like, I'm starting to learn more about myself and it's a bit shitty and I didn't know, it's like, because there's just so much out there that makes it palatable. It's like, okay, yeah, you'll want to do this if you think it's easy. But if someone tells you honestly, like, this is not going to feel good, all the time, then what's the likelihood of you wanting to do it? And so, how I talk about my work, how I talk about these kinds of things is I want people to be informed. Like, I want to know. Don't tell me it's A when it's A, B, C, and D. And then I get there and it's A, B, C, and D. But all I heard about was A. Then I'm making a choice off of something that I wasn't even fully aware of. That pisses me off. So I'm not going to sugarcoat things. I'm not going to I'm not going to keep things from people. I'm going to keep it all the way real with you. That's just how I roll. And also, even with my delivery and what I say, it's because I really want people to understand, like, it's not what is all out here with the, white lights and the candles and all of the things. Like, that's, yeah, sure, that's ritual. I love ritual. All this is, it works and it matters, but there's also the dark nights of the soul and the crying and the I don't want to get out of bed for a day or two and the journaling and there's all the stuff. A and B, top and bottom, it's all the things. But in the middle of all this work, there is the have fun. And I think that that is something that is missing. There's a difference between it's challenging, it's heavy, it's difficult, it's all the stuff. But there's also a difference from love and light and rainbows and unicorn farts. There is the where is the fun? Where is the fun? And so by setting an intention that I'm going to find fun in this process, then you invite that more into what you're doing. So even when it's challenging, you recognize that it's challenging, but you also see, I really didn't expect to come to this lesson through coloring. I didn't
Mm,
expect for this thought to come up as I am learning to crochet. I didn't think that by going out on this walk and hugging trees that I was going to break down by over here. I didn't think that, but it felt good. And it was fun, like listening to the birds and seeing cardinals, which are my favorite bird. And it was fun having that conversation with that person. It was fun coloring or crocheting or puzzling with Afro beats in the background. It was fun. And then something hit me, a thought hit me, and it took me someplace. And I cried, and I was angry, and I was sad, or all the things. But there was still fun in here. There was still an element of fun, so it wasn't that bad. I can do this again. So find that. It's there. It's there.
it is there. And if you would like to find it with Biba, Biba, tell him what's coming.
Da, 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 da. I have a 3-month program. It's called the Limitless Leader Mini Mind, and it really is a self discovery, self exploration exercise. We're going to be talking and conversing every day, checking in. You have a task to do, and then you get to come in and say, I did the task. And if you care to talk about the fun or how you felt, what you noticed, and the progress and all that good stuff, then that container is available for you to do that. But really, it's just about being around other people who are looking to explore themselves more, explore themselves, discover themselves more deeply, and do that through an activity every single day. So that is going to be coming up in March. I'm super, super excited about that. And if you want to read more about my work and about the Limitless Leader Mini Mind and about imposter syndrome, you can go to my website, www.bibaatta.com. Every time I say it, rolls off the tongue.
Magic. Magic. Like, y'all, I think what's key here, and the work that I am doing every day really just brings this point home. You can't do it alone. You shouldn't do it in isolation. You
Mm-hmm.
need to be able to build these connections with other people
Mm-hmm.
because that's what makes them stick. And if this is a place where you struggle, and today we have given you what it looks like on the other side. So, y'all know, if you're not there, if you're not actively telling your story, if you're not actively modeling this behavior
Mm-hmm.
to other people, if you don't feel secure and confident in what you're doing 99% of the time. There's always going to be that one time, but 99% of the time, I got this, y'all.
Hmm.
And if you don't got it, I want you to find Biba. I want you to help yourself get to this other side.
Yeah, it's possible.
Hmm.
It's possible. And when you do this work and you see the changes that occur in your life, it really enriches everything. It changes the game. I can't even tell you how unbothered I am about so
Yes,
much stuff.
about so many things.
So many
Totally
things.
unbothered. I don't have to have an opinion.
I don't care.
Mhm.
IDGAF.
Indeed. No fucks are
No,
given.
not a one. And I remember because my core wounds were around abandonment, rejection, and judgment. And so living that as a young, like a teenager in a fat black body, as a young girl, not wanting to be judged, rejected, or abandoned, like I would just come on. I would, as soon as I show up on the scene, the judgment is it we've already it's there. They're looking for me so they can start on me. The rejection, guaranteed. I don't look like other people in my school. I don't look like other people and other kids that people, my friends. I'm different. So when we're getting into boys and we're out and whatnot, they're not checking for me. Rejection central. Never felt great. And then I worried so much about what other people thought of me that I put on a persona of being more extroverted than I really was. Now I got to be extra funny. Now I got to be extra loud. Now I got to be everybody's friend. Now I can't necessarily have a differing opinion from other people. I'm hiding parts of myself so that I could be accepted, so that I'm not rejected or judged or abandoned. I gave way too many fucks, and people didn't really get to know me, and I didn't get to know myself. Would I do it differently? Absolutely. But that was just a part of my life. And also, I learned so much from it. I mean, it wasn't pleasant, but there were certain things that I sought out at that time that made me who I am now. I wouldn't have some of the interests that I have. I wouldn't even be able to have this conversation about this in this way and do the work that I do, which is like my purpose in life, right? Had I not had those experiences, because I wouldn't have sought out the information at that time to get me to here. So while it was difficult, it was challenging, like for me, it was necessary for me to become me. And so now that I've gotten here, yeah, my fucks. Oh, you're fat. Is there anything else? Matter of fact, I don't care if there's anything else. And if I was really pissed off, I would fucking roast you because I had to learn on the playground. You know what I mean? Like you got to be quick when you're out there getting roasted every day. And I'm a Gemini. The katanas are out. So if I cared, you wouldn't be feeling good at the end of the conversation. So it's good. It saves me so much energy, so much labor that I can put into the things that are important to me, the people who are important to me, the conversations that I have with people who matter to me are so different because I have energy for them in a different way where I was exhausted wearing the heaviness of that mask where I'm not myself. I can't be myself. People won't like me. I'm afraid. Now, yeah, my relationships are different. Life is different. How I show up in life is different. What I'm doing different. Like better. Wasn't
Yes.
easy. Still not easy.
No, but
And
worth
yet
it.
worth it. Worth it.
My friend, it is my honor and privilege to be able to be on this journey with you.
I know. I'm
Thank
so grateful
you
for you.
for
Thank
being
you.
here today. This was fantastic. Y'all, we'll have links in the show notes. You can find those on neurodiversitymedianetwork.com. Thank you all so much for being here. Joys and delights, all of you. We'll see you next